You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
In this multidimensional world, much of which is invisible to the eye, a group of non-physical entities have come here to expand our knowledge of how the universe works. These non-physical teachers are called Joshua, and they convey their teaching through Gary Temple Bodley. Each week, Gary, with a selection of law of attraction experts, open up a roundtable of thought-provoking discussions surrounding the teachings of Joshua. Joshua's intention is to bring clarity to the listeners through the ever-expanding law of attraction by looking at reality from a new perspective. Welcome to the teachings of Joshua Roundtable.
Welcome to the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable. This is the show where we take a closer look at Joshua's teachings and how they apply to our everyday lives. It is the evolution and expansion of the law of attraction. If you're interested in how reality works, then I'm sure you'll find the show quite interesting. Before we begin, I want to let you know that if you've somehow stumbled onto the show, or someone has told you about it, or if you were led here by some related interest, then you are meant to be here. If you're listening to my voice now, you have been guided by the law of attraction, and you are a vibrational match to what we're going to discuss today. As we talk about Joshua's teachings, some things will resonate with you, and this is how you'll know that you're meant to be here. You might not agree with or believe in everything we're going to talk about. That's okay. But something will interest you, and that's your indication that you're meant to listen to this show. If you're here now, you're supposed to be here. I want you to listen to the entire show. There's something in this show that you need to hear. Today we will pick up where we left off from last week's show, and we'll finish talking about Joshua's cheat codes for life. There are 15 important things to know about physical reality. We discussed the first 6 last week, and we'll talk about the other 9 this week. In case you missed last week's show, we'll briefly go over the first 6 codes. You can always read them yourself at the website, theteachingsofjoshua.com. We'll also talk about an interesting question that's been presented about money, and hear Joshua's answer. If you're interested in the subject of money, then you'll want to hear this. On the roundtable today, we have Steve Finizza. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Gary.
And Janine Kodakovich. Hi,
Hello.
Janine. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good. And I'm Gary Temple Bodley. Today is October 17th, 2015. Sorry, almost skipped ahead there. I'm really saying 2016 a lot now, which is so strange. But it's still 2015, and this is our second episode. These episodes will be on YouTube at some point, so no matter what time you live in, you can always come back and visit us here. As we start off, each week we'll talk about a quote from Joshua. And Janine, will you read the quote of this week?
I would love to. When you act out of love, you are performing as the highest version of yourself.
So that's an interesting quote, and I'm not sure if that came from one of the books or where it came from. Deborah Joe, who creates these quotes, which you can look at on the website, just picks them at random. And this one is an interesting one because there are really 2 ways to act, and they are out of love, which is the highest version of you, or out of fear, which is not who you really are. And Steve and I were talking about last week where you might make a list of your pros and cons of some decision. So really the pros are all the things you love and the cons are all the things you're fearful of. So it's an interesting way to look at life. It's either one or the other. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Joshua says that we are love. I mean, that's the essence of who we are. And so when we come down here and we're acting in alignment with that, then, we feel good. But I also think it's worth bringing up that one of the reasons we come down here is so that we can experience fear. So to see acting in any other way as wrong would be wrong. As Joshua says, there is no wrong. So, right. Embrace the fear, so to speak, right?
These days, I'm trying to act out of love rather than act out of fear, just because bring my childhood, a lot of things presented to me were fear-based, and whether it be a parent teaching or religion or whatever. So I basically, I want to relinquish fears. And I think when you do that, you can be all you can be. So I'd rather come from a place. But as you said, Steve, there is no right or wrong. And it is a learning process.
And
Yeah, exactly.
And the value in that, especially experiencing fear early on, the value in that is it gives you a bounce. You can take the bounce, so that once you know the other side, you need to know the other side before you can know the positive side. You know what I'm saying? It brings it into clarity. If it's always good, then that's just normal. So it's
absolutely
it's good it's almost the benefit of experiencing that contrast is it's sweeter to feel the positive side.
Right. So when you look at love and fear, though, generally, when you're acting out of fear, when you're trying to protect yourself from something, you're not really utilizing the laws of the universe for your benefit. You're sort of resisting. And I think that the genesis of most arguments are that you have a fear and the other person has their own fear, and you're not ready to relinquish your fear. I was just doing a negotiation this week on a business that we're selling, and it happens to come up that it was my old partner in business, and then we bought them out, but he still had a partial interest in one of our restaurants. So he's selling that restaurant. And, I could have held on to this animosity or resentment out of that whole situation. But instead, for really one of the first times, is I embraced the whole negotiation as I want him to do as well as he possibly can without me worrying about what happens to me, as long as I stick to certain boundaries that are right for me, for what I want out of it. And so everything I did in this conversation was trying to allow him to say whatever he wants to say without getting defensive, and help him to get where he wants to be, which is out of the business, and get him as much money as he possibly can with still getting me what I need to get out of the whole deal. And it was so smooth, it was unbelievable. In fact, we had never really had a conversation in 5 years that worked out like this. And I was just focusing on my higher self and being loving towards him the whole time. So it was really amazing. And I think this is happening in a lot of things in my life now.
As you were...
and a great I'm sorry, Steve, I was just going to say, and a great outcome for both of you at the same time.
Totally. It was really fun and easy, and he was actually excited by it. And at the end of the whole thing, he says, we had this wonderful trip to Las Vegas with my wife and his wife, and for Lily's 50th birthday. So I guess that was about 10 years ago. And had this great time together. And so the last thing he said is, let's go to Vegas again.
No.
Which is funny because Lily would never do that, but...
and while you were telling the story, I was going to jump in and before you said it went well, I was going to say, I'll bet your money it went well, just based on your intention and your frame of mind. It's
exactly.
Guaranteed to go well.
Yeah. You utilize this leverage that if you're not aware of it, you might think it's perfectly rational to be a tough guy and get what you want to get out of the situation, be a hard ass, and be a tough negotiator. And if you do that, it's really based in fear, and you're not going to get anywhere. Yes. Or it's not going to be as positive as this turned out to be anyway.
Right.
Another situation happened this week where I'm spending a little more time with Lily at her store, helping her out. She's getting very busy now, and things are going great. And she's a little stressed out. She's got a lot going on. So I'm there helping her out, and she said something that in the past I would have just stormed out, not acknowledging the help that I was giving her. And so instead of getting upset, I took a step back and I said, you know what? I'm really not giving her the help that she needs. I'm giving her the help that I think that she wants. And this whole time I was thinking that, just the fact that I'm there, she should be thrilled that I'm even helping out at all, because I'm not getting paid, or,
Mm-hmm.
And she says she wants me around. But I said, you know what? I'm not adding any value to this. So I have to rethink it, and I have to go above and beyond and add value if I want, her to be happy with me. So I took the responsibility of not getting defensive, and instead of leaning into it and adding more value to it.
So you shifted your perspective maybe from yourself to her.
Which is, how often do you do that?
That's not very often.
A new thing for me, that's for sure.
New for me too.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, imagine if someone insults you, and instead of saying, wow, they shouldn't insult me, saying, oh, maybe I need to rethink my whole stance on this. It was like, do you guys ever listen to Louis C.K.?
Yes.
So
love him.
He's got a thing where he says, if someone calls you an asshole, well, you are an asshole. You can't deny it. You can't say, no, I disagree. If you are being an asshole, you are the only one who cannot sit back and say, I'm not an asshole.
Definitely going with the flow there. Yeah.
You have to acknowledge that you're doing something that is making other people think this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so last week we talked about Joshua's cheat codes to life. These are the 15 aspects of physical reality that once you know them, it makes life a lot easier. We went over the first 6 ones, and then we'll go over the other 9 as we go on today. And Steve, would you briefly catch us up on the first 6 of them?
Sure. I'll start from the beginning. The cheat codes to life. We have come forth into physical reality because we've been summoned by those of you wishing to understand the mechanism. This is Joshua speaking.
Right.
Summoned by those of you wishing to understand the mechanism of physical reality and the laws of the universe. In other words, we come bearing cheat codes. Here they are. 1. You are a worthy being, as worthy as any who has ever lived. Therefore, you are worthy enough to receive all that you want. It is your divine right to be, do, and have anything you desire. 2. You are unique in all of the world, in all of history, and in all of the future. No one who has ever lived or ever will live is anything like you. You are truly unique, and this fact is evidence of your complete worthiness. 3. You create your own reality. Your life is your creation, and you are fully responsible for how that life unfolds. It is in your control. You are not a victim to fate. You are the captain of your life. 4. You have been given free will. You can think any thought you like. However, those thoughts create your reality. You can choose to look at the negative side of things and bring more of that into your experience, or you can choose to look at the positive aspects of anything and bring more of that into your experience. 5. You determine what is positive or negative. The universe is neutral. You bring judgment to something, and how you see it determines whether it is positive or negative. And 6. You create through your thoughts, words, and actions. Choose them carefully. Thoughts you continue to think are called beliefs. You have many beneficial beliefs, and these help you create the life you desire. You have some limiting beliefs, and these hold you apart from what you want. Since you can choose your thoughts, you can also choose your beliefs.
I've been doing this now for 2 years, and Joshua's written through me 500,000 words. So there's a lot of information, 4 books, dozens of articles, and hundreds of questions. And if we just had gotten those 6 things right there, that's such a tremendous benefit. Just those 6 things. If you can know those first 6 things, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and knowing it on a visceral, the lowest level possible. There's a lot there, you know what I mean? And you could probably spend years just absorbing that.
Yeah. But if you have that from a frame of reference, then now that dictates how you act in your life. Just those 6 things, knowing you are as worthy as anyone else, that you are completely unique, that you have this ability to create your own reality, that you're not a victim of fate, that you have free will to do whatever you want to do, that your judgment alone chooses what's positive or negative, that there is nothing inherently positive or negative in anything, and that you create through your thoughts, words, and actions. Those six things. If you can just get that as your basis of belief in life, then those are all beneficial beliefs that will start to steer you in a direction towards living a life you really want to live.
You- I'm-
Okay.
I just want to, if
Yep.
I could just add that I've been working at this a long time. I feel my spiritual journey, and I just really feel like the last year with Joshua, this for me, this stuff is finally starting to sink in, and it seems like I almost want to pinch myself because life's been going pretty good the last few months, and it's like I almost feel like I'm out of the woods almost. It's like I don't want to jinx myself or anything, but
Right.
it's just pretty cool. I just wanted to share that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I was going to say earlier when, there is a lot of content in that. And, I realize myself when I reread these, something else pops out to me. Or, I could read them 50 times and something else really stands out. So you could spend a lot of time thinking about each and every one of these. And I'm with you, Gary. If we had a little pocket, if we had these printed on a small thing and kept them in our pocket every day, I think each day would be great if we lived by these cheat codes.
Yeah. For me, over the last 2 years now, it has gone from a pretty, bumpy life that I guess a lot of people are used to a very smooth and calm life. And I don't know. It's just really interesting. I think that is really, if you had a choice of this, things going up and down and up and down and up and down, or if they're smoothed out and calm, and you understand that everything is working out, it just makes life so much more enjoyable.
That's right. Well, there's all ebb and flow, and I know personally, I feel the same way you do. When you get to that place and it's running smoothly, you just want more of the same. And I kind of reflect back on what am I doing different? And my spiritual practices, meditating every day, reading, being enlightened, meeting people like you, like-minded people. It's all got me to a better place today than I was yesterday even.
That's for sure. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
I think this is a perfect lead-in here.
It really is.
Number 7, the basis of life is well-being. Everything you want is coming to you as long as you allow it.
And that allowing word is a big word. Mm-hmm. You're not making it happen. There's nothing you can really make happen because it won't work out if you try to push it. You just have to allow it to happen. That is, if you look at all the questions that I've gotten, the answer to almost all of them is the universe is working to get you everything you want. The only thing standing in your way is your resistance to the change that needs to be made to you to become the version of you that's ready for what you want. And the only thing you can do is allow that change to occur. So when things happen that are supposed to nudge you in the direction of what you want by altering a belief that you may have that's limiting, and you resist it by saying that should not have happened to me. I was in college, my friend Bruce and I had this pretty big business where we were researching office buildings, finding the tenants, and putting them into a database, and nobody had computerized databases back then, so it was a new thing, and we were written up in magazines, and one of my jobs was going around to office buildings and taking a list of all the tenants and then coming back and putting them in the computer. And I really hated it. I was in college. I wanted to do other things. Plus, we were working as waiters at nighttime, so it was tough. And I had this new car that I could not afford. I had it for about 2 weeks. And I'm driving to one of these office buildings, and I get crushed in the side by a big Lincoln, and I didn't see it coming or anything, and I don't even know how it happened, even as I look back on it. But I always wear my seatbelt. I hadn't been wearing my seatbelt, and when I woke up in this car, the driver's side door was touching my left shoulder. I was in the passenger side. Had I had a seatbelt on, they said I would have been killed instantly.
Oh, wow.
So the car's totaled. I'm fine, and now the business is pretty much over. So I got out of the business and the car at the same time, and everything worked out. But at the time, you would say, well, that's not the way you want it to happen. And obviously, had I just said, I don't want to do this work anymore, or I can't afford this car anymore, and given these things back on my own, but I was stubbornly holding on to them, it would have had the same effect. So it's interesting in how you view certain things that happen, but it led me out of that situation that I didn't want to be in.
I had almost exactly the same situation with a car accident that afterwards the benefit was it kind of gave me exactly what I ultimately wanted. And if I just would have acted on it, I probably could have avoided having to have the accident in the first place.
Yeah, true.
I had that happen to me as well. Isn't that amazing? And that was a good 24 years ago. I was driving. I was involved in a head-on collision. And at that time, I was heading down to Miami. I was ready to tell my employer that, I found the perfect person to do job sharing, or I would need to leave, as I had my first child. And talk about setting your intention and seeing what unfolds. I ended up being home because I broke my ankle so bad and had to have screws put in. I was held up, and I did get to be home with him until he was at least 9 months old. But at that point, honestly, I was in a wheelchair. I had to have a full-time aide. So sometimes, you have to be careful of what you ask for. It did get me out of that situation. I went back temporarily obviously with a changed mindset that I need to know what I need to do to help, my husband pay our mortgage at the time. We had this big home. I viewed myself as this career person.
Yeah.
And here I have this child, and all of a sudden I had this overwhelming feeling that I wanted to be home with him rather than have this huge career. But, I was home, and I did get to see him in that early part of until he was 9 months old. So
yeah, and that just shows you, had we not had the fear, had we just trusted that things were going to work out, we would say, I don't want this job. I want to stay home with my child. I want to do what I want to do in college. But instead, we were so fearful of losing these things and thinking that one thing is responsible for another thing. And this is actually what the money question today is about, so it's pretty interesting. All right, we're running behind, so let's go on to number 8.
Okay, number 8. You came forth into this physical reality with a set of intentions. Most of those intentions were general in nature, such as the desire to feel joy, love, freedom, happiness, fun, abundance, and to expand through contrast. One or more intentions were more specific. These contain the essence of what you are here to explore in this lifetime. These are your interests and passions in life. Follow your interests to discover your passions, and you will live a life of bliss.
So that's pretty interesting, is that, we made intentions prior to coming here, and this is actually what we should be doing before we do anything, is intend what we want. So intentions are very powerful. So from your non-physical position, you say, I'm going to come and have fun and enjoy life and have happiness. And while I'm here, there's a couple of things that I like to explore. For Steve, it might have been the subject of fear. For me, it was maybe my worthiness. For other people, it might be poverty. For Janine, it might be family, being a mother, that sort of thing. And a lot of times, we don't get to explore that because we are influenced away from these things by society. And imagine if you came here, you can see it in certain people that they come here and they're just completely laser focused on certain things, and there's nothing that can change them from that. But other people will say, I'm not feeling worthy, so I want to get the adoration of others by going on American Idol. And you see how disappointed they are when they don't get to the Hollywood Week or whatever. They're just so unbelievably upset, and they thought for sure that he'd go through. And this is someone who's obviously only trying to get adoration and fame because they're not feeling good about themselves. And then the people who go through on that show are always like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I had no idea this would happen. They're the ones who are really focused and passionate on that thing they came to explore, which in that case is their musical ability. So how many people do you guys meet who know what they're here to explore or know really what they're passion is or their interests are?
I really, personally, I feel so many people are seeking that answer, that very answer,
Yeah.
and exploring that every single day.
You get a lot of people who just have no idea what they want to do. What I always say is, imagine the world's largest magazine rack. It goes on for hundreds of yards. There's every conceivable magazine in the whole world on every subject. You can have your choice of any one of them. Which magazine do you pick up? And that's pretty much where your interest is. And if you simply go in that direction and focus on that, it'll lead you step by step to what you're here to explore.
I find when I follow my passion, everybody around me knows it. I am just so joyful. I have blissful moments, and sometimes they're like, "What does she have? I want a little more of that." When you get to that point, there's just no denying it. I mean, people can actually sense it from you. You are your best self in that particular moment while doing it.
And what's your passion?
Well, I have a lot of passions, but I'm I'm a creative person, so I love designing, I love drawing, painting, making jewelry. I can go on and on. I love writing. I happened to be at a yoga retreat in January, and people came up to me and just said, "I just was in such a great space that they can actually see how joyful I was." Yeah. And you know what? When you're like that, it's almost contagious to others, because I know people have done that for me as well.
Sure. And I think you lose the concept of time when you're doing something like that, and that's a really good indication that you're focused on one of your passions. Yeah. And then also people can't understand a lot of times why you get so much out of your passion. One of my passions is poker, and very hard for people to understand how you can sit there for 10 hours and just play cards. But to me, it's like the most thrilling thing in the world.
I'm spending all day tomorrow at a racetrack with my little car, and that's, to me, it's the greatest thing on the planet, right? But I invited all my friends, a lot of my friends, and they're like, they have no desire to do that. They're like, right. Nope, not at all.
They have their thing, and there's like, my friend loves to go fishing. I go, oh my God, that's, to me, just sitting out there and rocking in the water and waiting for something to happen. But I would go to the racetrack, though. That sounds like something I could really get into.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to number 9.
Number 9. Fear is what holds you apart from all that you want. Realize that much of what you fear is irrational, and learn to analyze your fears. Do not simply accept that there is something to be fearful of.
So, a lot of people think that fear is just a normal part of life, which obviously it is. I mean, there's 2 types of fear: rational fear and irrational fear. Rational fear is the fear that keeps you out of lions' mouths or from jumping off cliffs. But irrational fear is the fear of asking someone on a date, or asking for a promotion or a raise at work, or public speaking, of course, is one of the big irrational fears. And if you can't die from it, then it's irrational. So by, asking someone on a date and them saying no, that's no big deal. That's irrational. And the only thing that keeps you apart from what you want is this silly fear that you'll be rejected or whatever. And that's it. You're keeping yourself apart from what you want. But it's more to it than that, isn't it?
Yes, and I was going to say that it's exhilarating to face your fears and overcome them. So
that is.
I agree, Steve. I was just about to say, especially if it's an irrational fear, when you push through it, you actually feel better about it.
Yes.
I look back at some of the things I'm fearful of, and when I push through, I'm like, wow, thanks, I did that, and you feel good about it. It's a learning experience.
There's a quote on the website you can see: exhilaration is the emotion felt when you overcome a fear. So it is exhilarating when you overcome a fear and then something beneficial happens. I was very hesitant to share this Joshua stuff with a lot of people. In fact, I've only sent the book to a few people. One of them was Jeanette Ma, and she'll be a guest on the show. She runs the Good Vibe blog, which is the #1 law of attraction blog. And we became great friends after I got up the courage to send her a book. But what's the fear behind that? Obviously, rejection of the book. But in my case, it shouldn't be such a thing to worry about. And then I sent another one to Jules Johnson, and here we are on the radio. So it is exhilarating going through that. Okay, number 10.
10. You have a guidance system that alerts you to those occasions when you are moving toward what you want or away from what you want. When you encounter positive emotion, you are heading in the right direction. When you feel any negative emotion, you are uncovering a fear and the limiting belief behind it. Stop and analyze what you are afraid of and realize it is irrational and has no effect on your life. Dismiss the irrational fear and move on.
So this is a huge thing that most people don't realize, is that your emotions are your guidance system. Did you know that, Janine?
I actually have come to know that more and more with each passing day.
So this is a fact of life. The reason we have emotions is to tell us when we're getting warmer or when we're getting colder. There are only two emotions, love and fear. Any emotion that's positive, like happiness and joy and exhilaration and passion and love, those are all based in love and beneficial. And when you feel that, when you feel goosebumps, you're heading towards what you want. And when you feel scared or angry or jealous or you have regrets or you feel resentment, those are all fear-based emotions. And those are great to have, because once you have them and you stop and realize, wait, I'm feeling something here that's not in alignment with what I want. What is the fear behind this emotion? And that's the process of analyzing your irrational fears and reducing the intensity of them. So unless you know that, though, what are you going to do? You're just going to mostly go through life feeling good sometimes, feeling bad sometimes, and then trying to coerce conditions so that you feel good more often.
Uh-huh.
So
when you don't you feel like when you listen to that inner guidance system, like every time if you listen to that gut instinct that you have, it's almost like you can't make the wrong choice. But when you go against it, because I have done that, I've had that inner feeling where I know I should do this, but I choose to do that. And it's always the wrong answer when I go against that inner guidance system.
Yeah, and that's another level of inner guidance, which is intuition. And intuition only works when you are, or works best, when you are in a positive emotional state of being. But just the basics, someone says something that you take offense to, you feel a negative emotion, and instead of analyzing the fear behind that, you try and make them change their behavior and make them wrong for saying it. It's also the person that's closest to you that says it is the one that's hardest to ignore.
They're your greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, because if some guy driving by, says something to you, you don't care. But if your spouse says something to you, or your parents or whatever, then that makes a much bigger difference.
Yeah.
Okay, number 11.
You have an inner self who can see your life from the higher perspective. Learn to communicate with your inner self and see things from that higher, broader, and wiser perspective.
And this is a perspective issue. So when you see something as wrong, you're realizing that there's a fear based in that. And since there is no wrong, you have to think about it again and look at it from a different perspective until you can see it as, okay, maybe it's not so wrong. Maybe it's just my perspective. And that is a whole nother approach to life, is looking at things from another higher perspective. Anyone have an example of this?
I don't have an example, but I have. It's tricky. I mean, it's sometimes because you're given a default, like let's say death. Death is bad, right? And when people die, it's easy to go to, how do you see this as good? So it's almost like you have to backpedal. We're eternal. They died, but nothing really happened in the big picture, and it's sometimes tricky to reach that perspective.
So you can look at someone dying of cancer, and you can say that that's horrible, they suffered, and it was painful for them and everything. But what's really happening is that they're allowing time to go. Everyone knows that they're going. Everyone gets to say goodbye. And everyone feels better when they finally do die because they've, been through a lot, and now at least they're in a better place.
They're at peace.
You hear
now.
that people say that all the time, right?
Yes.
So that's an example of looking at it from a higher perspective. Or if a friend's mother was just coming home from work, actually coming home, somewhere from the shopping center, going on a very mild curve in her neighborhood, a street away from where she lived, and she just somehow goes off the road and hits into a sign and dies. It's like you couldn't even believe that happened. But at least it was quick, and she didn't suffer and all that. And when you see things like that, you sort of know that it was her time and she was meant to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
Number 12, you have an inner world and an outer world. The outer world is merely a reflection of your inner world. The outer world is what you experience with your physical senses. The inner world is what you experience with your thoughts, beliefs, and imagination. Create from the inside out.
So this goes to show you that physical reality is an illusion, and what you are perceiving is the reflection of what you're thinking and feeling from the inside. You are the projector, and the world is the screen. This is a very advanced concept, because you sort of are observing and then feeling. But how this system works is that you are meant to feel, and how you feel will be represented by the world around you and your life. And if you look at your life, 99.9% of things are exactly the way you want them to be. You're very comfortable. Do you remember when you were kids and you would go to your friend's house and you're like, man, I'm so glad I don't have these parents or live in this house or this situation. There were very few parents I would trade for my parents, even though my parents were as dysfunctional as you could imagine. You sort of are comfortable with that because this is what you've attracted. Same as your spouse. It's very hard to say with all your friends. I say to my wife all the time, okay, if I'm so bad, pick someone else. who would you like to trade me for? You want to trade me for Bruce? I don't think you do you? Yeah. So the main majority of your life is filled with stuff that are a vibrational match to how you want to feel, what you're all about, who you really are, or who you're being anyway. And then the little things come along to either move you in the direction of where you want to go or to show you where you might be off a little bit here and there. Did I get that one right? You think that makes sense?
I would just say that it's, for me, it's the realization that you're not, it doesn't work. Everybody thinks it works like, I look outside of myself, and if things are going well, then I feel good.
Right.
And it's actually the reverse of that. It's you feel good first, and then your experience of reality will be a good feeling. And you're the one that is putting those feelings there in the first place. So it's kind of a fundamental shift in how you think about your life and how it's unfolding.
Exactly right.
So
that's why I love the last line where he says, where they say, create from the inside out.
Right.
I mean, you can really stop and think about that for quite some time.
I think that's why meditation is really good too, because when you get good at meditating, you're either stopping thought or you're focusing on how you want to feel. Number 13.
Number 13, everything is right. There is no wrong anywhere in the universe. If you look at something and judge it as wrong, you are simply attached to your limited perspective. See it from the higher perspective, and you will feel better.
So I like how they brought in number 11, or number the one about perspective. So number 11.
11.
Right. And now they're showing you why that perspective is important, because there is no wrong. It's just a judgment call, and you either make it right or wrong. So the one before, or the one after this one, we're going to talk about, see it from the higher perspective, and you will feel better. Well, who cares how I feel? You know, if this is wrong, then I should feel bad. So let's go on to the next one.
This is a feeling reality. The only thing that really matters is how you feel. You are meant to feel good, so start demanding and expecting to feel good. If you feel bad, turn the other cheek, pivot to a new thought, and do whatever it takes to feel better. Move towards feeling good.
This is probably the most important thing of all the cheat codes, is that you, in order to get the life that you want, you have to feel your way to it. If you want a good life, you better start feeling good, because everything's going to come as a result of how you're feeling. When you are fighting against things, that makes you feel bad, and you are going to move into this reality where you are getting more things that make you feel bad. Since feeling is the only thing that matters, why not feel good as much as possible? You see this with babies. Babies generally feel good until they don't feel good, and then they go crazy. They scream and cry and rant, and it's unbelievable how much noise they make. As we get older, we learn to, we're told to calm down, relax, don't show your emotions, don't express, feeling bad. I used to have tantrums like crazy when I was a kid, and my parents thought that there was something wrong with me.
Nope.
But tantrums are right. If you don't feel good, express it and get back to feeling good as much as possible, because how you feel is going to create your reality.
For me, it was about even knowing that I wasn't feeling good. You get used to what would you call it? The mix. The feeling good, the feeling bad, and you just think that's normal, so you don't demand from yourself that I have to feel good. And so what was really positive about this is, as you do start feeling better and better, it becomes more obvious when you're not feeling well.
Right.
And that's the first step. Recognize, hey, I'm not feeling well, and try to stop that momentum early on, because it gets so much harder when it gets away from you, and then life starts, hitting the fan, so to speak.
This is true of getting into these teachings and understanding this. It sort of is, you sort of feel like you're going backwards, because you start to feel bad much easier. And little things make you feel really bad where they never did before. And so you're like, well, if I'm going to a new level of awareness and consciousness, I should be feeling good all the time. And this little thing shouldn't bother me. But that's the whole point, is now you're demanding a higher quality of feeling. And when something little happens, it's such a bigger thing than before.
Abraham says that, most people are going like 5 miles an hour, and then when they hit a tree, it's not a big deal. And I think when you start doing this, you start going 100 miles an hour. So when you hit a tree, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I did feel like I was going backwards. I felt really like I was failing miserably at this whole spiritual thing, and it was very and then that adds to your vibration, and that creates more. Yeah, it was an exciting time. Let's just put it that way. I hope it's over.
I think that it's never over. So.
But it sounds like you're on the right path, Steve, and letting it flow and going with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And just realizing that when something happens that makes you not feel good, you just have to pivot.
Yep.
Well, I do that each morning when I wake up. We have a choice how we're going to do it. What do we choose for today?
There you go.
How are we going to feel? How are we going to act? What kind of example are we going to be? I think about all those things. I mean, I think women think,
I
maybe
don't
too
think
much
so.
sometimes. I have
No.
to get out of my own head sometimes, but I do.
Yeah.
You know, if something was still troubling me from the day before, you know, I pray about it, meditate, and then I have that awareness. I'm given that awareness that I can choose how this day is going to be,
Absolutely.
and I can choose how to move forward and who I want to be, and how I want to act, and how I want to feel.
Exactly. Okay, we're running out of time here. Let's go to the last one, number 15.
This is an attractive universe. Nothing can be pushed away. Everything is attracted. Everything comes to you by the focus of your attention. If you focus on what is wanted, it will come. If you focus on what is not wanted, it too will come. If you appreciate the abundance in your life, you will experience more abundance in your reality. If you focus on the lack of abundance, you will attract more lack.
And this works perfectly into our question, which is about money. Janine, would you read the question?
Absolutely. Dear Joshua, my partner and I want to move to California. It's our dream. We are both self-employed, but cash flow is slow. And while we see things manifesting, it doesn't happen quick enough for us to be distracted from the things that bring us down, like the lack of money to achieve our dreams. What can we do to quicken the process? Rachel.
Okay. I'll read Joshua's answer, and I'll read it paragraph by paragraph so that we can talk about the paragraph as we go through it. Dear Rachel, the fastest way to achieve your dreams is to forget about money. Money is not the key to achieving your desires. Money is simply the only tool you can see that will get you from where you are to where you want to be. However, it is a double-edged sword. If you had the money, you could have what you desire right now. So then, following that logic, without the money, it is simply not possible for you to get what you want. Since you believe the only way to get to California is with a big bag of cash, if there is no bag of cash, there is no way to get to California. So this sentence is talking about that there are lots of ways the universe can get you what you want, but if you think money is the way it's going to happen, you limit it to money. And if money isn't there because you focus on the lack of money, then you can't get your dream.
And she's she's almost telling the universe, this is how it's going to happen. So
Right.
that's severely limiting, right? Your job is not to worry about the how, but just what the feeling is that you want, and then let the universe surprise you on how it's going to happen.
Exactly. Your beliefs are flawed. Money is just one way to achieve your dreams, but it is the least elegant way. If you had the money, you actually would not get the full manifestation of what you truly desire. How you see California in your mind is quite specific. If you were to receive $1 million, you would never be able to create that vision you hold. It would be a gross distortion of that vision. You want your specific desire to unfold in a wonderful way. So forget about the cash, because your vision cannot unfold the way you want it with money. You need something much more powerful. You need the leverage of the universe. So this is a really interesting thing. There's a lot of things about wanting to go to California that are the feeling of California for them. It is, maybe a young couple moving into an apartment together, having a child, playing on the beach, having friends their own age, doing stuff like that. This is how I see it anyway. If they just got $1 million and said, yeah, go to California, then they'd have to worry about buying a house, where to live, who their friends are now. Are they really going to want a job now that they have $1 million? The life is going to unfold based on a whole lot of things, and money is just going to get in the way of the really elegant manifestation of what they want. Imagine if you were wanting to go to Hollywood to be an actress, and you thought that you had to have money in order to do that, just to get started, and you won the lottery. Well, what does that do to your whole plan right there? You now have $300 million. Are you really going to be an actress? You go to the first, audition, and they say something negative. You're going, I don't need this. I have $300 million. I'm never going to, right?
Yep.
All right. Have we convinced you to forget about the money? Good. Now we can show you how this dream and every other dream you will ever have can unfold easily without money. Money comes only when you don't need it or want it. It will show up to support you without you thinking about it. Without the feeling of desperation, money flows easily. But you never need the money. You only need things to unfold in a way that allows the perfect and elegant manifestation of your desire. The problem is you try so hard to visualize the road to your desire, and you cannot see over the little hill that's right in front of you. You must trust that as you keep going, the road will eventually lead to California or any other desire. So as humans, okay, if you're a bird and you're hungry, you wake up in the morning and you fly somewhere and you land and then boom, there's a worm. But for humans, we have to say, okay, I want this. Now let's figure out how to get that. And you can't see the future. You can't see how it's going to unfold. You can't imagine all the people you're going to meet or the situations you're going to get in, or the conversations you're going to overhear, or the TV show that you're going to watch, or the book that someone's going to give you, right?
Well, nobody tells us this.
Yeah, you think you're supposed to figure it out. You're supposed to set goals and make a plan and figure out how to get from here to there.
You're supposed to pedal uphill, I think, is one of the analogies.
Right.
And the actual...
Until you give up.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're actually supposed to turn the bike around and just coast downhill, which everyone goes, that's way too easy. There's no way that could work.
Right. That can't possibly work.
Right.
But if you look at anything that's happened in your life, it's sort of little things unfolded that you didn't even know that was going to happen, or how did I get this, or how'd you meet your wife and husband, that sort of thing.
It's all a series of coincidences, right?
So here's what happened to me. When I was single, I had been dating a lot, and I had dated this girl. I dated girls my age or younger, and they were all, something that was, let's just say they were crazy. But it wasn't me, it was them, right?
Of course.
couldn't have been me. So I'm like, okay, this last one was so crazy. I'm just going to take 6 months off, and I'm going to think about what I want, and I'm not going to date anybody. So I'm in my office building, and I'm downstairs at the salon, and this girl's shampooing my hair, and she's a typical one of these girls that I would have normally dated. And I think she was like 21 years old or something. And I'm 30-something at the time, early 30s. And I didn't notice her or think anything about her. She was just a nice girl doing my shampoo. And there's a restaurant downstairs that I went to every day, like a fast casual place. And I'm in the line, and the lady behind the counter says, somebody wants to know if you're married. And I've seen her a lot of times, but I had never thought anything of her. And I said, who wants to know? You? And she goes, no, some other girl. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's right. So I go upstairs, and for the first time ever thought, hey, she's beautiful. Maybe this is someone I want to date. And that turned out to be Lily. And the girl who asked her this question was the shampoo girl. So this all worked out at this whole thing to go there. And you could never have planned that in a million years, because I would have been in a bar and never met Lily, because Lily's never been in a bar, that sort of thing. Just amazing.
Perfect.
Okay. So how do you make your dream come true? You can't. You can only allow it to come true. Once you've asked for it, the universe has set things in motion that will create the most elegant and perfect manifestation of your desire. You must allow it to unfold as it will. You cannot force it, for if you do, you change the course of events that must play out so that you get the full and complete version of your desire. There is nothing for you to do but become a vibrational match to your desire. You don't do anything other than allow the universe to change you into the version of you that is ready for your desire. So this goes back to the basis of manifestation, is that you are a vibrational match to everything in your life, and if something is not in your life, you're not yet a match to it. If it is to come into your life, and it will because you've asked for it, you must become a vibrational match to it. You have to change into a new version of you, and that version of you will be vibrationally ready to receive it. This is pretty higher level stuff here that I think that people don't get, is that we as humans are changing all the time. We're changing vibrationally, and we're changing vibrationally a lot based on our beliefs. So in order for you to have a different vibration, there's nothing really you can do better than allowing the universe to change you. And what happens is you receive these manifestation events that change your thoughts about things and your beliefs about things, your ideas, and everything works out along the way to get you the most perfect essence of what you want.
So that's why I look forward to manifestation events, which
Right.
I used to look at them as negative, but now it's like, hey, this is awesome. I got a manifestation event. That means I've got a false belief that the universe is saying this is blocking you from getting everything that you want. So talk about motivation to root that out and to lessen the effect that that belief has.
Your vibration is based on your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. Change those things and your vibration changes. When your vibration changes, your world changes. You really don't know what changes need to be made so that you become a vibrational match to what you want. But the universe knows. The universe will go to work to change your beliefs so that your vibration changes enough so that you become a match to California, or the California that they have in their mind. As long as you allow the change to your beliefs and habits of thought to come easily, your vibration will change easily. If you hold on stubbornly to your beliefs, you will hold yourself apart from what you want. If you believe that money is the only way to get to California, you will not allow your vibration to change so that you become a match to what you want. When you feel negative emotion, that this is your indication that you are stubbornly holding on to fear-based belief that will keep your vibration from changing. There you go, right there. So something happens, that's a manifestation event. You feel negative emotion, you're holding on to a limiting belief. Understand that you're holding on to a limiting belief, then you can look at what that belief is. You need a whole bunch of money to go there. And once you realize that that belief is false, you don't need a lot of money to go there. Things will happen to get you there. Don't worry about it. Then things will unfold, your vibration changes, and you're ready for the next manifestation event.
Rachel's question and Joshua's answer really just made me reflect and think back. When I was younger, I had a huge job in Manhattan. It was high stress, although I loved it at the time. It was exactly what I wanted to do, and at that time of my life. But I came down to Florida just for a much needed getaway. A friend lent us a condo in Boca. And when I arrived here, I knew with all certainty that this is where I was meant to be. It just felt like home. I had to get here. You know what? I never really thought about all the how, the why, how we're going to do this. Tim has 2 businesses up there. My husband, Tim, has 2 businesses up there. I have this great job. What am I going to do down here? I just set the intention I wanted to get here. And then everything just flowed, even from finding the place. I just made a phone call and I said, hey, start looking for some properties for me. Yeah. And it just all happened. And you know what? I've never really stopped and thought about that in all these years.
But if you think that, okay, I wanted to go to Florida, and so the only thing that we can do, we got to sell Tim's